Alright, so here's an update on Stream. I'm pretty happy with how this has turned out. It's getting really close to being final 1.0 version release. So in order to connect to the saber, you hit the connect button. The saber will reboot when you do that. Then hold in the activation button. Alright, now that it's connecting. Okay. Wait for that to connect. Alright, so here's a menu. Now, last time I didn't have everything done, but I've done a lot more since then, so let's just step through each of these menus. You've got your blade settings, sound and sound timing, motion settings, options, and then your toolbar. You've got save to saber. You can reload factory defaults. You can disconnect and exit the application. So if we go into the blade settings, we've added a few things in here. As before, you can still set the flicker effect and the main color to one of 12 presets, 0 through 11, and you can preview that. And you can also preview the flash color. And let me just pull the kill key out so we'll get a little more brightness. As you can't really see those effects because the PC can't supply enough current to power those LEDs. So if we go into the modify button, you can still tune the channels. Preview is now optional. You can choose to not preview or preview. If we turn on the preview, you can tune that down. See, we've got our red, blue, green. So let's just kind of a kind of an orange blade. So we'll pick that color. Alright, and we'll modify the clash color too. We'll make this nice and bright, kind of white. Okay, and then these are the new settings, so you can configure your what your lockup effect looks like. Previously the lockup was a solid color, but I've added the ability to tune what that lockup looks like. Now that's how it used to look. It was just a solid lockup color. What you can do is you can add flicker intensity to it. What this does is it adjusts the amplitude of the flicker between it's 100 and 0%. So 0 would obviously be no flicker, solid on. 20 would be some flicker, like 100 would be flickering a lot. Now keep in mind that does affect the brightness because it affects the median amplitude of the LED. So it'll be average a little bit dimmer the more flicker that you add, but it does add kind of a more dramatic effect. And depending on how you're if you're filming, doing this for a film, it might look different with more or less. So you can add some flicker amplitude to it. Now I also added this lockup color intensity setting so that you can choose how much of the lockup color you want in the mix. So if and this is 0 to 100%. So if I drop this down to 50, this is the most dramatic. It'll rapidly keep switching randomly between the flash color and your main blade color. So that looks pretty dramatic, but if you made it be only like 10%, then it would be mostly your main color and it would just flash your lockup color once in a while. Okay, so those are new settings. So we'll just save those for now. And in sound and sound timing, this is pretty much the same as before. You can adjust your blade power up and power off time. Alright, Now I'm going to move my microphone closer so you can hear that a little bit better. Let's make the power down time longer so you can see what that does. So we make that, this is all in milliseconds, so if there's 3000, it'd be a full 3 seconds to power off. So let's see what that looks like. Okay, so I'm going to put that back to something more actually in sync. And you can change your blaster flash time, swing suppress time. That's after a blaster effect. It's how long it'll wait before it acknowledges swings again. That allows the blaster sound to play in its entirety and not get superseded by a swing sound. And this is a swing suppress after clash. Similar to the blast effect, it allows the entire clash sound to play and not get superseded by a swing. This minimum swing interval, what that is, it's the minimum time between swing events so that you don't get rapid fire swinging. So if you're just on the threshold of your swing tolerance, you won't get jittery swings. It helps smooth that out a little bit. And this timing here for the swing repeat interval is in a period of a sustained swing, like if you're spinning it. It's how often your swings will repeat. And the hum relaunch interval, this is a new thing that I added a test for, where it has to do with how long the hum extensions are on your sound fonts. So it allows you to tune this. If you have really long extensions on your sound files, you can make this really long and it won't try to keep restarting your hum at a high interval. But if you have really short intervals, it'll make it shorter. So what that preview does is it'll play the hum sound and it'll put some clashes and some swings, and it'll see what that sounds like. And ideally, if you have that tuned correctly, the hum will be seamless and you won't hear a gap. You won't hear it break, and there won't be a break in the hum. So that's just a helpful little tool to help you figure out what sounds good. All right, so moving on to the next screen, we've got motion settings. What I did was in the firmware I added 9-factor presets for clash tolerance and swing tolerance, so you don't have to worry about all of these details. But for troubleshooting purposes, I left there's a 10th option called user custom that you'll hear when you cycle through the in-hill menu system, and these just allow you to tune what those are. It's mainly there for troubleshooting. You probably won't have to come in here. Eventually I may allow you to set what the profile's preset is, but I haven't done that yet, so for right now you probably won't ever have to come in here. And finally, got the options screen where I only implemented this. All the options will be applied to all profiles. So I see this right here. What this is global options. It applies to the entire saber, no matter what profile you have selected. So this first one, if there's a one-button lockup option where you hold the button and smash it, and that causes it to enter lockup. You can do that if your saber doesn't have an aux button. You don't need one to still access the lockup feature. What this option does is it tells it that if it detects a swing after you've entered the lockup, it'll just exit the lockup right away. You don't have to hit the button. But if you have an aux button wired, or if you just would prefer to push the button again to tell it exactly when to exit the lockup state, you would deselect this box. So then the only way it'll ever exit is if you push a button. Alright, so the next option is automatic power off. That's pretty self-explanatory. If you've got your saber on and it's just sitting there humming, it's how long it waits before it just powers off the blade and goes back to, you know, the off state. So you won't run your battery down if you just turn your saber on and for some reason forget to turn it off. That'll help it. But if you prefer it to stay on forever, you just deselect this and it'll stay on forever until your battery runs flat. This next option, the hold switch for how many milliseconds before power off, what this allows you to do is this off switch, when it's on, you'll have to hold the switch for a little bit before it'll turn off. That's to avoid accidentally turning it off. If you're doing with it spinning, whatever, and you accidentally bump your switch, it means that you have to keep that switch contacted for a certain amount of time before it'll actually turn off the saber. This allows you to specify how long that is. You can go down to a second or up to 10 seconds, whatever your preference is. The next option allows you to specify how long it waits before it goes to deep sleep. We're running on one of Andres's boards that supports deep sleep. This allows you to specify how long you wait before you go to deep sleep. If your saber is completely off and just sitting there doing nothing, it'll conserve a lot of power by going to deep sleep. But if your setup doesn't use, you know, if you have a kill key and you'd prefer to not use that feature, you can turn it off completely by checking this box here. Alright, so one button blaster blocks. This allows you to do is disable or enable the one button blaster block feature. So if you don't have an aux button, you can use your main button by rapid pressing it. Just tap it quickly, it'll go into blaster block mode, and then when you swing the saber around, it'll start doing blaster blocks. This allows you to turn that off. If you've got an aux button, or if you prefer to just not have blaster blocks enabled at all, you can disable that. This is the one button lockup, enable, disable. Similar to the blaster blocks, if you hold the activation button in and then smash the saber, it will enter lockup mode. But if you don't want it to do that, if you have an aux button, you prefer to just use your aux button for lockups, you can turn that off. This option allows you to use the font boot sound or specify a global boot sound. Should mention, probably the most requested feature was multi-font support, and I've kind of alluded to that a little bit already. There's a menu system up here in the corner you'll notice that's new. If you pick this, you can choose your sound font from this menu, and it will announce what sound font you're doing. So let me just show you that quickly. Okay, so you can see right there I've got a light and a dark side font. So let's go through configuring these because I've just done a factory reset, and let's see if we can set this up to be more light side. So right now you've got your blade colors red. That's not a light side color. Let's make that blue. Remember, this is your 3 channels, and depending on how you have it wired, mine happens to be red, blue, green, but yours may be wired differently. That's why I didn't give these channels names. They could be any color dye. So preview that. Alright, so that looks like a light side font. Let's give it some flicker. Let's change the flash color to be, we'll make this one kind of a white color. It's not showing up white because I put my kill key back in. There we go. That looks better. All right. Okay. Let's make it kind of a fluctuate. Make it really kind of intense. Color intensity. Let's make that 50. Let's make this 70, and the lockup frame period, that's probably good, but we'll just make it 25. Preview that. So that's pretty exciting looking. Alright, so let's save that. Now I should mention the Extreme GUI only loads one font at a time, so one profile at a time. So if you don't save and then switch to another font, you've just lost all of your changes. So you have to remember to save before you switch fonts. And you notice what happened there when I uploaded it is it will briefly flash. See, now my previous version, that's another request that I got, was when you uploaded it, there was no acknowledgement to tell that your upload actually worked. Now when you upload it, the blade will blink your main color just for a little bit, so you can see, hey, that setting took. So if you, for example, switch. Alright, so now we're on the dark side font. So if we go into here, it looks like that's already red. That's kind of cool looking, but let me just make that kind of a yellow. Oops, that's not yellow. Alright, modify button. Alright, so let's go in here. Let's say, so we're going to want some red and yellow like that. Okay, that's how I like my dark side fonts to look. Flicker effect, let's see, make that look kind of unstable. Okay, and for lockup, let's just kind of leave that as it is. Okay, so yeah, it's good. Look here. Now we'll save it and watch. It'll blink red this time because that's the main color that we chose. Alright, so now that's done and we're all set. So if we switch back to the light side font and save it, see, it blinks blue. So we kind of saved the light side font twice, but let's try out our settings on our saber. Alright, so here's the fun part. Let's check out our settings and play with the saber a little bit. Power up to light side font. So we see we got our blade effect here. Let's do the Zorro test. Now depending on how you've got your swing tolerances, that's more or less responsive. I turn mine kind of low so that you really have to swing it. So you can test the one button lockup. So it comes out when you swing it. Now remember, you can turn that off so that you can get out of it a few different ways. Push the button again, it'll stop. Or if you hit the aux button, it'll also stop it. Aux button for lockup. I added 2-button support to the firmware. And 1-button blaster blocks. Now remember, you can disable the 1-button blaster blocks if you want to. To exit out of the blaster blocks, you can either hit the main button again, and it'll just enter it and go back to swings, or you can hit the aux button to get one more blaster block before it goes back to normal swinging. Let's go to our next sound font. There's 2 ways. Remember, this firmware is set up to support both 1-button and 2-button, and you can optionally wire the aux button, but all the functions are available with just 1 button. So the easy way to switch, just hold the main button and hit it. You can also hold the aux button and it will switch. Jedi do not carry blasters. Here's my OB font. I didn't configure that, so that's just defaults. Let's go back to our dark side font that we configured. Alright, so here's the dark side font that we configured. So we've got our blade flicker there. There's our lockup. Now with this lockup, we just left it a solid color. Blasters. Oh, also I should mention, see what I did right there? There's a lot of ways to get out of one button blaster. If you clash it, you go right back to regular swings. So keep that in mind when you're choosing your clash tolerances. Menu system is not changed that much, but we'll go through it quickly.
Menu mode. Set sound volume.
Alright, so here you can set the sound volume. Again, you can do that with one button or two button operation. If you have two buttons, the main button will increase the volume.
Maximum volume.
Okay, and the aux button will decrease the volume.
Maximum volume.
Now see what happened there was I got all the way to the lowest volume. It'll loop around. Either one will loop around. So if you increased it with the main button all the way up to maximum volume,
maximum volume.
now if you press it again, it'll go to minimum volume. And you can increase it as you want. So you have access to all the volume settings with just one button.
Set main blade color.
Hold the button to move to the next menu item. Here you can select from 12 presets. Now in the GUI you can set what the presets are to be whatever colors you want. We can just pick whatever color we want here. Yeah, it's a cool looking purple. Let's pick that. Hold the button.
Set flash color.
This is the flash color. You can change it the same way. Scroll forward with the main button, backwards with the aux. If you don't have an aux button, it'll just loop around and you'll go through all the same colors again. Hold the button.
Set swing sensitivity.
Now we've got 9 presets.
8, 9.
And then after 9 there's user custom.
User custom.
The user custom is what you could specify in the GUI, where there's those 10-bit values that you can specify. You really kind of have to know what you're doing, but that's what that is.
1.
So it loops around,
2, 3,
just like all the other
4,
settings.
5, 6, 7.
So you can access all the settings with one button.
Set clash sensitivity.
So this is the same thing.
7, 8, 9. User custom.
It's the user custom setting.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
And that's it for the inhaled menu system. Now I have begun work on a user manual, so you can expect a PDF file with instructions on what all the settings mean and how to connect the saber and all that good stuff. So don't worry if you didn't catch anything in this video or something you didn't see, don't understand, that'll be there. And I'll also be on the FX Saber forums if you have any questions. Alright, thanks for watching guys, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye now.